In the span of 24 years, post-medieval London held a civil war, unjustly jailed a citizen, was decimated by a plague, and then burnt down. Now, 300 years later, London has survived to become a global superpower. It all begs the question, how does a society recover from a crisis?
King Charles I unwittingly convinced that he had all the divine authority necessary to rule the country, which led him into a conflict with the parliaments who demanded a greater role in the government. This was one of the causes of the Civil War, which broke out in 1642 and lasted until 1651. The parliaments prevailed in 3 wars as a consequence of their better military strategy and control over resource-rich towns. London's influence and the sturdy fortifications utilized in battle, such as the Tower of London, contributed significantly to the Parliament's success. It resulted in the abolishment of the monarchy, which removed the strict system that the king had brought to the country.
With religious strife on the European continent as well as in England, the court system strove to keep violence and internal strife to a minimum. However, in the late Tudor/early Stuart era, crime was a pressing social issue. More and more people perpetrated crimes in an effort to alleviate harsh economic poverty. As a result, crime rates between 1580 and 1640 convinced many people of the necessity of severe punishment for certain actions. In reaction to this crisis, English jurisprudence underwent a transformation to enable a broad spectrum of punishment. Common law attempted to scare people from a life of crime by making a vast number of crimes capital offences. The main objective of punishment transformed from retribution to deterrence. In support, the system grew more efficient so that offenders received quick trials and punishments.
The Great Plague of London was not the first plague epidemic in Britain. In the 17th century alone there had been several outbreaks, but none of them was so severe as the outbreak in 1665. City records indicate that approximately 68,000 people died, although modern estimates say that the number must have been around 100,000 victims. In earlier outbreaks, it was already mandatory for houses to be closed. Only one member of a sickened household was allowed outside the house, and they had to be recognizable for others by carrying a 4-foot-long wooden rod. During the last outbreak, the Great Plague of 1665, the rules became even stricter. In 1666, a set of rules and orders was published by the king. Houses now had to be quarantined for 40 days. Wardens were appointed for keeping people in and supplying them with their necessities. The infected house was marked with a red cross, and the words, "Lord have mercy upon us," were written on the door.
The Great Fire, the worst fire in London's history, began on September 2nd in Thomas Ferrier's Pudding Lane Bakery. In hours the city was in flames. Prior to the Great Fire, buildings were constructed from wood and covered in waterproof pitch for insulation, all of which was highly flammable. The fire spread easily because the houses were close together and because the prior summer was exceptionally dry. At this time, London had no official fire brigades. Instead, people used leather buckets and handheld fire spouts. There were fire engines, but they were difficult to transport and often arrived too late. By the time the Great Fire of London was put out, it had reportedly destroyed 13,200 churches, 87 parish churches, the Royal Exchange, Guildhall and St. Paul's Cathedral. The fire changed London. The February 1667 Rebuilding Act stated that all the outsides of all buildings in and about the city be henceforth made of brick or stone. New buildings codes that prevented the spread of fire between buildings were implemented. The fire also brought opportunities. King James refined fire laws, and the first fire insurance office was founded by Nicholas Barbon in 1680. He hired people to put out fires, protecting his customers and income. These Thames watermen became the first ever fire brigades, even if they were not called that until much later.
Examining how a society responds to threat allows a window into the human condition and the nature of the London society. Through it, we can see that the true strength of London lies not in their monarchy or class system, but their innovation and resilience.